Anyway, we've tried to be welcoming, but Abby has forced her way into some family traditions where she wouldn't have been invited, and nowhere would someone outside of specific family have been. She's been calling Sally sis, since they were only dating a few months, as an older sister or mother-in-law thing she does with my wife. It's one thing I'm not a fan of. She wants me to be like a father to her, not because we've clicked or anything. We are very different people. I'm not saying that in a bad way, just that it's not based on how we get along or anything. My kids and I have a tradition when they come over. We have a private catch-up in my office, study, before they leave. This has become even more important to them because, while they both get along well with my wife, they don't want to have personal conversations around her yet. Abby asked if we could talk, and after I explained the tradition, John later asked that I do it, saying he'd never had a caring conversation with her. I compromised by not including her in the tradition, but joining the two of them for coffee and letting her talk. Then she started calling me Dad. They weren't even engaged yet. John pulled me aside and begged me to give her that. He laid this whole thing on me about me always being the dad she wanted, right in front of her, and she just wanted that. She told me she cried watching me and Sally together. She still gives me random hugs. I'm a lucky dad. I didn't like it, but I do feel bad, so fine. I gave her that. She wants me to walk her down the aisle and do the father/daughter dance. I don't want to walk her down, and since I walk with a cane, dancing is hard. At my own wedding, I only danced twice. John is begging for me to do one, preferably the aisle. They came over on Sunday. John and I were talking when AB walked in without knocking, asking if he told me yet. I asked what, and John said she wanted me to say something about having a second daughter, now in my speech, and how I loved her. I just looked at him. She asked if I'd do the walk and dance for Sally. I said, of course. She yelled, she's my daughter too. And I said, it will never be the same. Sally is my actual daughter. I tried to explain, talking about her being a happy addition to the family and how much I love how happy she makes Jack, which I thought was a good compromise. But she started crying. John apologized, and they left. But he called me when they were home, nearly begging me. Am I the ass for not lying and saying I love her, or that she's my daughter? Look, you can't force relationships like AB is trying to do in this situation. There's clearly something to do with her past. Now it has to be something like she didn't have that family dynamic growing up, so she's craving it now in a really unhealthy way. You can't force relationships like this, and the fact that she's yelling at you, I am your daughter too, gives me those real sort of unhinged vibes. I wonder what's going on in the background conversations with John and her at the same time. Like, they're going home, John's apologizing, but later calling up and begging to do these things. These demands pretty much, and I'm trying to imagine a hypothetical situation in my head. You know, my son has got a girlfriend like this, and I think I'll be phoning him and having a serious conversation about it. It's about what he's going through at home because, you know, it all sounds pretty worrying. The fact that he's getting home and then he's phoning you, begging this sort of stuff. What is he dealing with at home? At the same time, John seems to be doing a lot of begging too, and it sounds like it's out of pure desperation. I couldn't imagine how worrying that would be to have a family member phone you up, begging for something like this. I'd be like, hold on, is everything okay there? Because it just sounds so unhinged. And at the same time, of course, I'm never excusing the behavior because, you know, I've got my eyebrows raised with this behavior. At the same time, it's red flag kind of stuff. I hope Abby does seek some help for what's going on. There's clearly something in the background that she's dealing with, and it's sad at the same time. If she doesn't get the help, it just feels like it potentially escalates and damages further relationships around her, which isn't good. But Fuzzy Mom says you have your boundaries. Abby sounds like she's developed this fantasy involving you and your family that can't be healthy. Yelling at you, she expects you to tell people, I love you, and you're my second daughter. She expects you to have a good time at her wedding. She hopes for your replies. John told me she really wants to be a part of the family, but she started so quickly. I wonder how much is us versus the idea of us. I've been told she immediately was obsessed with the relationship my kids and I have. She was yelling, and I was more concerned for John than upset, honestly. She seemed not okay right then. A commenter says, yeah, this doesn't sound like it's about you or Sally as actual people. It's about Abby's fantasy of having a family. It makes me wonder how much she really even knows you or Sally. There's nothing wrong with her wanting a family, but she's going about it the wrong way. Relationships grow and develop over time. You don't just claim someone's family and have an instant relationship with them. She could definitely benefit from therapy. Op responds, saying she knows Sally a bit now. With me, she learns surface-level things and approaches me, but when I try to engage, she immediately acts like we're so close and switches subjects to something related to how much closer we should be. John says it's nerves, but it doesn't seem like it. Charmed Phoenix says, not that you have to keep correcting her. She pushed this far with the /speech because you gave them an inch with the dad, etc. You need to put your foot down with your son and her. If this continues, someone in the family will get fed up and might explode on them, and it won't be pretty. What if that confrontation comes at the wedding? This needs to be sorted now before the relationship and interactions continue. Otherwise, you might need to consider lowering the amount of contact you have with your son and his wife. Op says, that's partly why I'm upset. I've tried compromising him because I want to help my son, but at some point, understanding has to go both ways. I understand she wants family, and I know she's partly jealous because I like my daughter's girlfriend more, but we're in the same field, and she let it happen naturally. I feel like it's all give and no take. Old Run says, you lost me at my wife 28. It's a little odd that you are so hung up on these traditions and a rigid family dynamic, but you married someone who is only 6 years older than your son. Ian replies, saying, yeah, the age gap is weird, but I don't understand what's wrong with the traditions. He said the wife isn't included because the kids aren't that open to her yet, and it's normal to not want to claim someone else's kid as their own, especially if they want to force you into the dynamic. When the Orbits reply, they say, I don't understand the tradition at all. Every time his kids come over to visit with him and his wife, they just have surface-level conversations for the majority of their visit, and then before leaving, they always go to another room to actually talk about their lives. So, when his son brings her over for a visit, do they just leave her by herself while son and father are in the other room? Whereas Op's wife is expected to entertain her during this portion of the visit. How is sitting in his office to have a deep, meaningful conversation different from sitting in the adjacent room to have deep, meaningful conversations? Op responded and said, not surface level, but they don't necessarily want to be open in front of my wife, and she respects that. As to why it's meaningful, it's because going back to their childhood, it was our special time to talk in a room they thought was cool and that I let them decorate throughout the years, which, as kids, they loved because they helped with that special room. I get that a lot of people think it's silly, that is apparent, but a special time my kids want to talk to me is not something I will ever tire of. There was also a few mentions in the comments about Opie and his wife's age gap in their relationship, etc., but Opie came in with her update and said, I planned on writing sooner, but life got in the way in a couple of really good ways. But people were helpful and asked for updates, and I have a surprise free day. So here it goes. Mother's Day, my kids and their partners went to visit my ex-wife. So it turns out my ex-wife and Abby are a lot closer than I realized. She calls her Mom, which is part of where this comes from. Also, apparently, my ex has been egging it on. On Mother's Day, they were talking about the wedding, and I guess whenever Abby referred to me, it was as Dad. My ex apparently told her to let it go, which led to yelling. Abby about deserving to be my daughter. Ex telling her that she's right, son telling her that I'm trying, and she should be realistic about things. Sally telling her, I only had one daughter, which was apparently a response to Abby saying to her that as my daughters, they should be united. According to my son, Abby was crying. According to Sally, she was crying and yelling and kicked something before going to her room. And Sally told me she went off on her, but won't elaborate, so I don't know what was actually said. But knowing Sally, boy, around 2 a.m., I got a text from Sally's partner's phone saying, Abby really is great. She hasn't been perfect, but you should really give her a chance, and you will learn to love her. I saw it when I woke up and tried to text her back, but was blocked, so I called Sally, but they were driving. They stopped by my place later that day because I'm on the way, and my daughter prefers liquor and cooking, and they told me about the night before. At the end, I asked to speak to her partner alone. I asked if I had done something to upset her. She was confused, and I told her I was blocked. She said I wasn't, but checked her phone and I was, and said it was after her message. I showed her the message, and it was not on her phone anymore. At that point, we brought in Sally and caught her up. Neither of them were happy. A couple of days later, John and Abby dropped by unannounced. Not something we really do in this family, but okay, fine. At made salmon, which does not take long to cook. I cook, and my wife serves while I make drinks. The entire night, Abby was trying to bring up the wedding, while John was trying to change the subject. Abby wouldn't allow that, and we talked logistics because I'm helping them get some good deals through some professional contacts I have. When she finally said, "So, I was talking to Mom. She said that you can walk me down the aisle, and she'll do the dance, or you can dance and she'll walk, it's your call, but you need to choose soon," I reiterated that I could not dance. She tried arguing that I had danced a little at my wedding, but I made it clear that this is different, and that I did not feel comfortable walking her down. She got upset and said, "Mom loves me. Why can't you?" I felt bad but couldn't lie. I pointed out that she had John, who loved her, my ex-wife's friends, and other people who loved her. She said, "But other than your ex-wife, those aren't my parents." I replied, "Neither am I." She was very emotional, so my wife and I gave them a few minutes. My son and I were alone together. He looked exhausted. He said the problem was that after Mother's Day, Abby had called Sally and kept saying, "They are both my daughters, and I did not get to be close with one but not both. It's them against me." But at that point, Sally cried havoc and let slip the dogs of war. Things were said. Grievances were aired. John had to hang up before it got worse, but I guess Abby was shaken. However, there was a new problem. Abby had decided in her head that I did not mean what I've been saying and was just doing it for Sally. He told me he would handle it, Ron Howard style, but he did not. Now, I get text messages from Abby every couple of days, acting like we have a secret relationship that Sally doesn't know about. She even called herself my secret daughter, and led my wife to believe she was inviting her to lunch with the phrase, 2 out of 3 of his girls going out. She has even started using the pressure of showing up at events, like a recent barbecue, to play a certain image. She hugs me more and holds on longer, wanting to do pictures with just me or my wife, but always a few with just me to post with captions. I do not like it, and my wife is getting especially annoyed because of how she is with her. I guess Abby surprised of with Father's Day plans for me that had to be shut down. It is she still inserted herself into the day, but she has a soft spot for her. When Abby gets emotional, she caves. My wife is a sweetheart. I asked him if he's upset with me, and he said no, he just wished it was different. He said we're good, but he's worried he and Sally aren't, which is when I took the advice of some people and suggested premarital counseling. He said he would talk about it. Abby is insisting Sally go to her fitting. That shop should pay-per-view that potential Royal Rumble because Sally is not holding her feelings back anymore. I told him Sally loves him, and I'll talk to her, but for now, this is stressful all around. Abby is driving my wife crazy with her ideas for what my girl should be doing. Driving me crazy with dad-daughter content, drove Sally to the edge, and oh yeah, last night sent me an email with 3 styles of father-daughter dances and song options. So, I'm not feeling any more respected or heard than before. The 6 of us have barely been in the same room in order to let things calm down since Father's Day, which was great until it was a show. Sorry this is so long with all the craziness. This is still the abridged version. We're supposed to meet Friday. S's partner and I have a bet going about how bad it will go. So onwards and upwards. I hope you fathers had a less dramatic day than I did. By any chance, does anyone know how bad of a crime I need to commit to enter witness protection? Just curious. There were some more comments with replies from the op. Instruction top says not the but Abby needs serious mental health help. This is beyond a little needy to downright pathological. What's going to happen when she finally realizes she's not going to get her way? Someone's going to get hurt. Your daughter and her partner need to step back and not engage at all, and you and your wife should attempt to do the same. How you love your son and will do your best to support him, but until Abby gets help, you cannot allow her to be around you and your wife. I wouldn't be surprised if Abby has a history of this type of behavior with others in her past. Op says, I do not know her enough to know about her history, but this does worry me, especially since my wife and I recently got some good news that has me feeling especially protective of her. My wife has a hard time with the idea of cutting contact since they get together occasionally. I pointed out she needs to take care of herself, Plus Abby has my ex-wife as a mother figure now, so she should be off the hook. CR Plum did it, says, I can't believe your son is dumb enough to still want to marry this walking red flag. At this point, you need to have a talk with your son, telling him that his fiancée is making you, your wife, and his sister extremely uncomfortable, and that you have serious concerns about her emotional stability because of her inability to accept boundaries and being told no. I would also tell him that if she doesn't back off ASAP, you'll make your boundaries physical and not attend events she's at or invite her to your events personally. I tell my son I won't attend the wedding because I can't support him marrying someone so toxic, but that my door is open to him for escape once he's ready. I know not everyone could or would do that, but I would if it was one of my kids. Witness protection is for witnesses of big crimes, not really for those who commit them. To be better off, just faking your death and running. Op says the shame is, we used to sort of like her, my daughter, my wife, and myself. Early on, she was interesting, with diverse interests. She's traveled a lot for her age, and she and I even have overlapping musical tastes. The problem was when she decided she wanted this. Her personality changed. She started getting pushy, changing subjects to what she wanted. If they were subjects she liked, it was like everything was put on hold until we accommodated, which we haven't, but it has not gone on. We make a good point about witness protection plus. I have been meaning to take up location tracker, freeboating, and scuba diving in sharky waters. Professional Fact says, did you tell your son about the fake message from Sally's partner in the blocking? I don't know that you ever confirmed that Abby did it, but that is another level of crazy from just inserting herself into your life. OP says, I do not think confirmation is possible, but a phone is where Abby would have been able to get it, according to Sally. Sally asked to be the one to tell him. This is crazy, but with everything going on, job stuff, great news, family stuff, best news, wedding stuff, I try to watch my drinking, and the family exploding a bit at Father's Day. I honestly forgot to ask her what happened. I have to call her later. It's still funny until you sit down and write everything out. You don't realize how much there is. It just feels like one thing after another. Agoraphobe says, not the one you mentioned in another comment, your wife is pregnant. Prepared for Abby to go into overdrive, especially if it's another girl. A level of obsession is very concerning. If you can't convince your wife to step back now, give it about 5 to 6 months. When Abby has taken over the baby shower, picked out the nursery, posted the ultrasounds online, insists on being in the delivery room, and gives your wife a full belly grope every 3.8 minutes during visits, revisit the conversation then. OP says, my daughter said the same thing about the baby coming. The second paragraph sounds like H. Thankfully, my wife has a close circle of friends for those things, but I'm sure you're right that Abby will try to insert herself into our pregnancy journey, like she did at my Father's Day. But now, I'm going to turn this one over to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being involved. And hopefully, I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love. Legs, eat some breakfast, milk, eggs, brush my teeth. My face, wake up. I can smell the smoke from the BAC. Let's go see the sunshine. Okay, I know today will be a good day. Okay, I know that today'll be a good day.